Hi, this is Lee Ganim, that garden guy from Ganim's Garden Center in Florist at 320 Kings Highway Cutoff in Fairfield. And we are introducing our COVID-19 take-home kit and how to make your own boxwood tree. And it's very simple, and we will try to give you an idea of a lot of little tips and shortcuts, and so this way you'll have the most beautiful boxwood tree for the holidays, okay? So in the package, we are going to send you a 5x5 square that has a liner inside to hold the water, because this is not only a arrangement, it needs water every few days to keep the boxwood alive. You get a big block of foam that has to be trimmed just a little bit. We would recommend that you soak this either 4 or 5 hours or even overnight. And you'll also get all the decorations that go with this. We have pine cones, you get the picks, you get the ribbon, any color you want on the ribbon, and then we have 2 different colored berries if you want to use the berries. So we have the nice red berries or burgundy berries, and then we have the nice gold berries. And you get the 4-inch picks, so you can wire all this stuff on here. And at the very, very end, you'll also see how they go into the block. We are going to give you enough boxwood, hopefully, for you to make a successful tree. I remember a number of florists that used to limit the number and to keep costs down, and I always believed in using whatever you had to use. So we are going to be able to use the boxwood, and we'd like. What I do is normally I take the boxwood and I separate the boxwood, because boxwood has side branches and it has tall branches. So I separate all my lateral branches, and I keep the kind of taller ones to one side, and this one also, because we need a really good top. And that's the way to do it. So you will get an assortment of branches from the sides and for the top that you should be able to work with no problem. And so we will get to that. There goes the first failure, but that's okay. We will start with this boxwood. And number one, let's presume you've already gotten your block and you're soaked it overnight. Now, if you'll notice, of course, it's just a little bit too big, so we have to do a little trim, and it's not a big deal. You just take a regular pocket knife and just kind of trim off the edges a little bit so that it'll fit into the container for you. The snugger the container, of course, the snugger the oasis in there, the better the tree. So we have to take a little bit off the sides. So this is very easy to cut. This is just foam, and it's very simple to do. Like I said, make sure you do soak it. You want it soaked all the way through. So that's how it's going to sit nice and tight in there, so you don't need any taping or anything. And you'll be ready to go at any moment. You can actually take the slices, and if you feel you need to prep the sides a little bit more, you can kind of stick them in here to give yourself some more stability. Now, the whole key is, and this is something I learned a long time ago, is we do the top piece first. So we look for a really good top piece. And depending on how big you want to make your boxwood tree is the lateral. So normally you do it 3 times the size of this, so that's a good start. And we're going to take the main stem out of the center of this, right about here, and get a nice cut. You've got to make sure you always fresh cut before you stick into the foam, because you want to maintain the moisture factor at all times. So what you do is you set up your first piece, and it doesn't have to be the prettiest piece because you're going to adjust it. And then we do the 4 corners, as we call it. So we do have 4 corners on this container. So we will take 4 nice pieces and accordingly put them in. And if you notice, some pieces are going to be closer to the block and some are going to be further away. So we want to use the branches the best way we can and use everything like we said before. So we're going to take a branch. Now we're just going to draw a line here, visual, and that's pretty much the contour that we're going to follow. As you get to the corners, you're going to notice you're going to go a little bit shorter so that you keep it nice and round. So if you just follow the way I'm doing it now, you just pick the pieces, and it's actually it's very easy to do. You want a little bit longer piece over here because it's further away. And we could always trim these if we feel that they're too far out. But this shouldn't take you much time to do it all once you get a little practice. And we use everything. So every little piece, because you're going to kind of start stacking them in a circular motion. So we take these pieces, and again, we cut them. Make sure they're cut fresh before they go into the foam, and try not to make a mistake and put them in the wrong spot in the foam, because once you pull them out, you jeopardize the function of that oasis, and you will have lots of holes, and you won't have the security that you want for that tree. So see how nice it's setting up? It looks like a Christmas tree almost. So we're just going to keep adding pieces to it and keep that contour. And as we go along, you'll see. And the other thing is, if you do have some stems toward the bottom, you want to make sure that you strip the leaves off them. You don't want the leaves to go in. You want the stem, just like any other arrangement. You want to make sure you pick it off so you have enough depth. And you don't have to really shove them a lot. Just want to be able to put them in so that they take up the room. And as you work your way around, you keep doing this over and over and over. And now what I do, I break the pieces down and I put them to one side. Anything that looks like substantial. And then, of course, we kind of gauge what we're going to use. And again, it's all that evenness that you want all the way around. So pretty much we can see that we're going to have a nice tree going all the way around. So, and then if you want to start building the top, of course, you can start doing that too, because the top is very important. But you kind of visualize the pieces you're going to use. Make sure you have a nice clean cut. You don't want that little stumpy thing, because otherwise it'll take up too much room in the oasis and you'll lose the whole effects of it. So basically we're just going to take the little teats off of them once we cut them, and make sure again that they're nice, and you always cut them on an angle. They seem to go in much easier. And then basically you just keep doing this and doing this all the way around until we get some type of filling in all the way up to the top. And it won't be that long, really. These don't take a long time, and people get aggravated when they come to our classes and they see how fast we do them. But of course we've been doing them for a number of years, so we've got a little bit of an edge on you. But this kit is available for pickup or curbside, if you prefer curbside. We do have all the accommodations that we have for our spring people, and I think it'll work, except for those really lousy days, those crummy days where we're going to suffer being outdoors. But it should be pretty much of a no-brainer. And I think the way that this corona is going, we're really going to be more of a pickup area. And if you're not afraid to come in the store, of course, it's not a problem. We are compliant with all of the COVID restrictions and recommendations. So, but again, we don't throw anything away. We use everything. I'm not being cheap, but it does fill up fast. And this shouldn't take a lot longer, believe it or not, because we're almost 25% there. And these little pieces, they take a little bit longer to use, but they'll give you a nice form, and you want to make sure you have that nice form all the time. And keep within your vision here so you see what's going on. Now this is a nice piece for up here to complement the top, to kind of fill out the top, so we'll put it right there. Like my dad used to say, there's a place for everything in this world. He said it in a different way, but I can't say that on camera. So I've been telling my kids that for years, and they always laugh. I think they're just being polite. But anyway, you'll see that this is taking shape very quickly. It's really not that hard to do. I know you people out there saying, yeah, you're 100 years old and you've been doing this all your life. You expect us just to be perfectionists right off the bat. Well, I don't expect that, but we will try to accommodate you and give you the best tutorial that we can. See, now we still need to fill this in just a little bit. And if you see, the top is starting to take some shape. And it, again, just don't even think about it. Just kind of clip and go. Try to tell the girls when we teach them how to make these. If you overthink this, you really will overthink it, and you'll mess up, and then you'll get embarrassed. And it's really not that difficult. So, and we will give you sufficient boxwood. You should be able to make the tree no problem, and actually with some extras. So, like I said before, some of the florists used to give the girls only so many pieces, and they said make it. And I won't mention that florist because he's still around. But he was very tough on his girls. This is a nice addition to the holiday table, especially if you keep it well watered. It will last forever. I remember making my mom one of these one time when she was alive, and I even got the battery operated lights so she'd have like a little Christmas tree in her apartment. And I dropped it off, and about a week later I went by there, and I came by, there wasn't any branches to be had, no leaves. And I looked at her and I said, "Ma, what happened?" She says, "I don't know." I said, "Well, you forgot to water it, Mom." And she goes, "What do you mean I have to water it?" And this is a woman that was in this business all her life. So I think she had a little bit of a mind for forgetfulness in their old age. So, needless to say, all the work I put into it went for naught. Now you see how fast this is filling up? And I know this is always a challenge for the first timers, but if you do make a mistake, of course, you can correct it. But if you just kind of just work away and keep plugging at it, it'll be actually go very quickly. You'll see it's starting to fill in very nicely. And really, I have no scraps here. So that's the whole key in our business, is maintaining or using every single part of a plant or a branch to not be economical so much, but to have it done properly with the right amount of material. And that's something we try to emphasize. So if you keep in mind the block is not completely square, it's rectangular, you can't really, you just need to think a little bit before you put the piece in. The other thing you do is kind of measure it and see if it's going to fit. If it's not going to fit, then you may have to gear it down some. And you can see here, we're moving along quite quickly, actually. And this we should have plenty of boxwood. And I even dropped half of them on the floor. So I'll get bonus points for this one, I'm sure, from the boss. So sometimes I do cut a lot of them and just kind of stick and go. It looks very simple when I do it, of course, and you're going to say, oh, you know, it's not really that hard. So just keep on, be a little reverent. And then you might have to angle some of them a little bit. This way here you get some of the shape back into the tree. And we don't want to take away too much of the shape. We've worked hard to keep it in shape. And you could watch a million of these tutorials on YouTube. Everybody has their own method of making them. This seems to be the easiest one for me. Thank you. You see my boss is here keeping an eye on every little piece I use. Again, cutting them on an angle is the easiest way. This way they make a nice indentation into the foam. And this is as much scrap as we have, which we're doing very well here. I may get to keep this job. I always enjoy the ladies that came to and some of the men too that came to these classes. They're quite talented, and we have to try to tell them they have to imagine what it's going to look like where you put that piece, and kind of guessing at it, and using the right piece for the right place, as we call it. So see, now we're building our top a little bit. We can always adjust that too. And even these little stumpy pieces we can use, because we're going to cover her up with a nicer piece. So keep that in mind. We're always going to correct as we go along. So, and then this here top, we can kind of angle a little bit and put a little more so she's a little bit straighter now. So you could always adjust as you go. This is not really a hard thing to do. And believe it or not, we're almost finished. And then when we get to the decorating, I'll let my lovely assistant demonstrate the decorating, because she's got the flair for that. She's our floral head. She does everything in the store. She does our social media, which is becoming a really big part of our world. We were just talking about the children learning, and this is probably, they thought that we learned this way. We couldn't even tell them stories because they wouldn't believe us. So I still have a hard time understanding what's going on with a lot of things. So, but as you see, this is really coming into shape now. And like I said, we are almost finished. So there used to be an artist up in the Catskills years ago who used to do toilet paper renditions or paintings, and he just about started, he'd go, I'm almost finished, and then 5 minutes later he'd be finished. So quite a talent. But those guys are all gone. That was up in that area up in New York State. They call it the Borscht Belt, and we used to have a lot of shows up there years ago, and they were quite entertaining, all those old-time vaudeville guys. As you can see, this is really taking shape, and it's not taking that long. I mean, we'll have this thing timed out in no time. And as you can see, we're almost there. Maybe a couple of holes here and there, But don't forget, you're going to put decorations too. So even if you have a little spot here or there, I wouldn't worry about filling it in right now. I would wait until this tree is completely decorated before you do any more. So that's not bad, huh? We got a couple little holes over here. If you have a Lazy Susan at home, when I make them at the store and when my girls make them, we use a Lazy Susan, and we can spin it so you don't have to keep moving it. And I don't even know if people buy Lazy Susans anymore. That's why they call them Lazy Susans. But if you happen to have one, it'll make your job much quicker and much more easier to complete. So we're almost there. I don't see too many holes. Maybe the boss is looking at me and telling me there's one here or there, but I think we did a pretty good job in that short period of time. And you can do this too. This is not a hard thing to do. The kits will be available on our shop link, or I believe you can call the store if you want to order them for pickup. And just give us the color combinations that you want for the ribbon and for the berries. Everything else is pretty much in a complete package. And there you go. And there's the boxwood tree. Now the decorations, you put the pine cones on these 4-inch picks that you'll get, and you can just kind of gauge and keep in mind that you don't want to overdo this. I'm a stagger kind of guy. I just like a little touch of this and a little touch of that. I'm not really into a lot of decoration. I think it's the old KISS thing, keep it simple, stupid, that makes things look the best. If you need to put a cone way up here, of course it's too far away, you have to add a pick to it. So what you do is you do this and you add the pick to it so you have the length. And once you get that in there, it should reach the top of the foam like that, and then you're good. So that's the way you do that. And then what you do is you add the berries. If you want the berries, we pick those also. We can, most of them have to be picked because they're a little short, the stems. So again, it's a matter of choice. And again, you just wire them up. I don't like too many berries on mine. I think the natural look is the very best, but this is basically what you're going to do with the berries. So you get that kind of effect. And then we add the ribbon to it. And these ribbons are right here. And we'll do one side for time's consideration. So you'll see that most of this is done. 1, 2, 3, ABC. Even my 5-year-old granddaughter can do this, I think, because she's pretty smart. Takes after her mother and father. And we'll stick another cone. Now you've got the effects of this, and that's what it'll look like when you're done. Thank you. Order early. We need a 1-day timeline for pickup, please. It's hard to get all these orders the same day, so if you can order ahead, you anticipate when you're going to want it, we will have the kits ready for you. And a very, very Merry Christmas from That Garden Guy.